If you're on a cusp of a business breakthrough, let's say you've introduced a new offer, you've increased your prices, or you have pivoted in the way you do business, chances are that gear shift is creating a lot of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and maybe even fear of failure or rejection. When that happens, we then tend to procrastinate and stalling the efforts, and that can be a killer for your business growth. Now, why am I saying that this is your fault? Now, before you click away, stay tuned and I'll explain further. Now, before you go and curse me out in the comment section of why I'm saying that this is your fault or argue with me, just watch this video till the end and you'll hear my point of view, and I promise you, you'll walk away so much more empowered and able to deal with this situation if you find yourself facing this in your business at the moment. Now, today's topic actually came about because I am working on a new project for online entrepreneurs on YouTube who are shifting gear and the cusp of that business breakthrough where that new change is introducing something big in their business, and they're finding that imposter syndrome or self-doubts or fear of failures or rejection coming up for them. Now, as I've been talking to the online entrepreneurs about this new project, most of them have said to me that that feeling of not being good enough is actually really negatively impacting their efforts to actually promote that new offer or promote that new price increase or the new way they're doing business. So if you're an online entrepreneur on YouTube and experiencing exactly what I've just talked about, be part of the survey. I'll make sure I link that down below in the description. And as a way of saying thank you, I'll be choosing one person at random and I'll be gifting them $50 Amazon gift card. So would love for you to be part. Details down in the description below. Now, the problem is not that you are having self-doubt or that you're experiencing imposter syndrome. All of us experience imposter syndrome each and every time we're going to a new height. The problem comes because you actually listen to the inner critic and the imposter syndrome as fact. That's where the problem kicks in. And what happens is, because you've accepted it as fact, because you've accepted it somehow as being relevant, is affecting your confidence in actually sharing that new pivot or new price increase or new offer. And because that's affecting your confidence, that's most likely affecting your impact. And as a result, not yielding the fruit that you'd hope for when you actually was preparing for this new launch or preparing this new price increase, right? Because a new price increase or price offer can easily yield $50,000 or $100,000 in your business a year, right? How devastating it is when those efforts flop and they don't yield that fruit, or you're pedaling and stalling and not actually bringing that forth and missing out on that opportunity and that growth in your business. That loss can be really devastating, and I don't know if you can relate to that, and if you can, make sure you comment below and let me know what your experience has been or if that has actually happened to you in 2021. So I'll tell you a story. I don't know if you've ever driven a manual transmission car. I started driving when I used to live in England, and it was a norm for everybody to actually drive or learn. Back then, I don't know about what it's like now, back then it was normal for you to learn to drive on a manual car. And I remember I could just not get used to a manual car. And I know in the US it's called a shift gear, right? I just struggled. That balancing of the accelerator and clutch, because you have to get it just right, or you will find that the car will stall and cut off. And for me, I kept being really worried that, because you're learning, right? You never want to find yourself stalling and cut off in the middle of the road and people are honking and telling you to move along, right? Some people are patient, but sometimes people are frustrated if you stalled and cut off in the middle of the road and you're panicking and can't get it, started back up fast enough, right? And that can happen to us. And mastery come over time so you can balance them just perfectly as you move up a gear. That is the same philosophy, if you like, or the same approach we take in business. Every time we shift a gear, there has to be a balancing of the internal work and the external efforts. And if we have found ourselves externally doing all the prep work, right, all the launch work, you've trained everything, and then you did not do the internal work, that balancing, take your internal work as your clutch, right? And you're over here just pressing the gas with your external efforts, and your clutch is not in the right place if you have stalled or even completely cut off your efforts because you did not do that collaboration well enough. Does that make sense? Let me know if I'm making sense and you're following what I'm saying down below. Now, the reason I say this is your fault is not that the inner critic or the imposter syndrome is your fault. I'm saying it's your fault to say it's in your power. Does that make sense? We have the power to decide where our attention goes when we hear the inner critic or when we hear the imposter syndrome going off. Not everything that calls our attention in our inner critic or the imposter syndrome or the fear of failure or the fear of being rejected. I mean, if you're putting up your prices and your normal clients or your normal customers, and maybe you may be worried, maybe your usual clients or customers may go like, we don't want to work with you, you've put up prices, right? If that is the thought that comes to your mind and you are responding to it and giving it attention as if it's fact, chances are that's what will affect you. But to be able to or have the ability to observe what is happening with the inner critic imposter syndrome and then choose appropriate response requires a little bit of work within our nervous system, because it can feel very real in our bodies, that this fear can feel very real and it can be very tempting to accept it as fact. So part of the work in this new project that I was telling you earlier is to work in that nervous system so that you can calibrate that internal with the external and be able to regulate attention successfully so that you are not being pulled by the inner critic or the imposter syndrome or the fears and the self-doubt. So you are able to observe them and actually respond to them appropriately. So don't allow the inner critic chatter to kill your business growth. When I say it's your fault, I'm saying it's in your power and you can change that and make sure that you secure that bag. You deserve it. You've worked really hard. When it comes time to enjoy the fruit, you deserve to actually really enjoy that fruit. So don't allow that inner critic to kill your business growth. So switch that script and understand you can turn that situation around. Does that make sense? I hope it did. If you watched it this far, I really appreciate you. If you're new here and you have not been introduced, I'm Doreca Delbridge. I'm an occupational psychologist. Most people know me here as msdorylinda. I'm the founder of the Baobab Experience from dorylinda.com, and I really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. And if you enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you subscribe and share this video in the communities that you frequent so they too can benefit from this type of message and they too can be empowered. And as we will say on this channel, focus on being than doing. And I'll see you in the next one.